Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, Young Thug's less popular cousin, Old Scamp, my brother Mike.
I got all the raps. I got all the lyrics. I got all the moves. I'm going to get your old behind on that dance floor, just cutting it up with my rhythms and my rhymes. Well, I got bars, as the kids say.
What's funny is you sound exactly like someone named Old Scamp would sound.
I got bars about the Royals. What's up? All my loyals listeners.
Yeah, that's good rhyming. Good job,
Thank
Mike. Mike teaches a slam poetry class on Wednesday nights. If you ever need
at the
something
adjunct
to do at the down at the old pavilion, and so if you want to do some slam poetry, just head down there and have Mike teach you his words. It's great. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We really appreciate having you. On this week's episode, we'll discuss a so-so week from the Royals. They went 500 this week, but tough to lose a series to the Phillies when we're kind of hoping that they start winning against good teams. But anyway, we'll take a look at the trade acquisitions that they made and evaluate those now that we have about a month's worth of data on those guys. And then we'll preview a jam-packed week of Royals baseball. I hope you were only planning to watch baseball this next week because they have 8 games in 7 days. So a lot of baseball to be watched this next week. This next week's going to tell us a lot about where the Royals stand for a playoff picture, especially in the AL Central. I did want to real quick, we didn't get any Apple Podcast review this week, but we did get a very wonderful YouTube comment that I want to share from somebody who was very nice. And so this is from somebody calling themselves Sarah Lucy P2P. She wrote in a comment to our last episode that or maybe it was the episode before that. I don't know which one it was, but she says, "You guys are constantly having such meaningful conversations. Thank you." It was very thoughtful. I thought that.
Hey.
I think Royals conversations are also meaningful conversations, Sarah Lucy. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, and in between the immature humor, we'll throw out a gem or two.
We'll throw out a gem.
Yeah.
We'll talk about something that's, Royals related occasionally. And so I also want to very much encourage you to leave your own reviews on Apple Podcasts, leave your comments on YouTube, leave your comments anywhere you can, because that just pushes us up the algorithm, gets more people watching the show, listen to the show. It's really great for us, and we really, really appreciate it. Also, make sure you're subscribing to our Substack, Royals Weekly Substack, because we're putting out an extra episode every Wednesday. For those of you as we get down the stretch, if you need more and more Royals content, every Wednesday you get another episode from us. And we put out at least one post a week that's just like a written article. I put out that today talking about the Tyler Gentry call-up and the trade acquisitions a little bit. And so if you're interested in any sort of new insight, go ahead and subscribe to that Royals Weekly Substack, and you will be able to hear more stuff from us, okay? Also want to let you know that Royal Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the preseason NFL to college kicking off, Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Get in on the winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor Pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, head on over to their online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of their over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. We'll start the review of last week with roster news. We actually had some last week. Some of it's a little bit interesting and important too. Mike, John Schreiber was activated from the injured list, so he's now back in the bullpen. Carlos Hernandez was sent down. What are your thoughts on getting Schreiber back and seeing Hernandez go back to AAA?
Seeing Hernandez go back to AAA is probably where he belongs. I know some people are somewhat excited about some small stints of effectiveness, but I think Carlos Hernandez probably, at least right now, is what he has been. John Schreiber is an interesting one because I think John Schreiber can be in a successful bullpen. I think if there's a role for a John Schreiber in there, and we kind of have seen them use him in that role in the 2 outings that he's had since he got back. One of them comes in with a guy on first, gets a ground ball, gets a double play. That's what you want John Schreiber doing for you in a bullpen role when maybe it's the bottom of the lineup coming up, but it's still a very close game. And you want a guy who's going to be able to get you out of a situation if one gets started. You know, it's the 6th or 7th inning. Your starter's still in there. He gets a guy on. You pull him. You bring in a John Schreiber because that double play is you're going to be able to get a ground ball and possibly a double play. So I think that's kind of a role for a John Schreiber. And if we can keep him playing in that role, I think he can be successful. Problem is, there are so many other roles that this pen just doesn't have filled that sometimes we want to put a John Schreiber into a different place that he can't succeed in. So I'm hoping we can avoid that and keep him where he needs to be.
Yeah, it's important to get Schreiber back to his best self. And what's interesting is if we got him back to his best self from this year, that would be okay. But it would be really great to get him back to his best self from previous seasons when he was not only generating ground balls, but was also getting some strikeouts. This year, he hasn't gotten anything near the strikeout level he's gotten in years past. And as a result, he sort of had moments where he was really not successful as the batting average on balls in play got out of hand, got out of control. Those ground balls started finding holes and he started giving up runs. And so if they can get him back to a place where he's getting a little bit more swing and miss, getting those strikeouts and generating those ground balls, then you'd really feel good about him coming out as your 4th, 5th, 6th guy out of the bullpen, I think. In other roster news, Hunter Renfroe was placed on the 10-day injured list today with a hamstring strain. The Royals called up Tyler Gentry for his major league debut today to replace Renfroe. Mike, what are your thoughts on Renfroe going down and Gentry coming up?
Well, the good thing is that the injury to Renfroe doesn't sound all that bad. You know, I can't remember who said it, but they said today if he played first base or catcher, he probably wouldn't have even gone on the IL. He'd be out a day or two. They'd sit him and he'd go back in. So, but I think it's a good thing because you have this opportunity. He's going to have to sit a few days anyway. Bring up Tyler Gentry, get him in there, see what he can do for you in your lineup because he's been really hot in Omaha. Can he be the kind of guy you bring up and he helps stabilize your offense on this playoff push? I would absolutely love that if that were the case. And so I think it's a kind of a good thing for Tyler Gentry, and we'll see if Renfroe can come back in and continue to contribute, which he has done okay since the All-Star break and since what seems like a little bit of adjustment against the fastball.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Gentry can do as well. Renfroe is a guy who was hot there for a stretch, was sort of cooling off lately, but was still doing some decent things offensively.
Had a good week this week.
Had a good week this week and was doing some decent stuff offensively. I think when he's deployed correctly, Renfroe can be effective. But I am interested to see Gentry because he's just a dude I'm very interested in. I've been on the Tyler Gentry bandwagon for quite a while now. He does have something that I think I really value in prospects, and that's an excellent approach to the plate. He has concerned me all season because of his inability to elevate the baseball. It is really the thing that will separate him from success or failure. Like the thing that will determine his success or failure is his ability to elevate the baseball. If he can elevate, he'll be fine. If he can't, he will not make it. It's like really that stark of a contrast for him because when he's elevating the ball, he gets into those power outcomes that he kind of needs. It'll be a lot of more doubles power than home run power, but he can get to it when he's elevating the ball. He actually hits the ball hard, like Michael Garcia. He hits the ball over 95 miles per hour a lot. He just doesn't hit it over 105 hardly ever. I don't know that I've ever seen him do it. And so the raw power is only 50 to 55 grade. The game power could also be 50 to 55 grade because his approach is so good, but he's got to learn how to elevate the ball consistently. He has been doing that a little bit more lately in AAA, but still not so much that I'd be like, oh yeah, he's doing great. He's been helped out a ton by good fortune over the last month and a half, 2 months. And as a result, his numbers have looked a lot better, but the expected numbers still aren't looking great. They're looking good. They're looking much better, but they're not looking great. And so I'm curious to see what he does at the major league level. If he can find an ability to get that ball in the air, I think he'll be fine. But I also ultimately think no matter what, when Renfroe's ready and comes back, Gentry's probably going back down. Although, now that I think about it, of course, rosters will expand soon. So this may have been a move that's like, we were going to bring him up in September anyway, so let's just bring him up now. He'll stay up whenever the rosters expand, and then we'll move on. On the field, it was a so-so week that ended with a real kick to the wiener, I would say, as the Royals took 2 of 3 from the Angels and then dropped 2 of 3 to the Phillies. Mike, once again, we see the boys in blue beat up on a bad team and struggle against the good team. You have any thoughts on a week where we sort of see things we've seen in the past?
I mean, not any other thoughts, no original thoughts. We've kind of already stated.
Hey, that's what this podcast is for. No, we should just rename it from Royals Weekly to No Original Thoughts.
No original thoughts. It's hard to have an original thought when they're the exact same team that they've been pretty much the whole year, which is a solid baseball team that struggles against the good baseball teams. And I was sitting back kind of thinking, like, the depth of this team is just, and we talked about this way back at the beginning, the depth is not good. It's not a lot of depth in this lineup. There's no depth in the bullpen, and there's not much depth in the starting rotation. But the thing that kind of worried me about this week is we saw another pretty bad Seth Lugo start. And it's not that I thought, hey, I watched this game. I'm going to go dig into the numbers, the pitch data to see why Seth Lugo is struggling so much. And I'm not seeing a whole lot different. Like, he's still mixing it up a ton. It's all regression. You are correct, sir. And it's not a surprise that the regression comes against these good teams with deeper lineups that, now you're seeing, because he was giving up some hard contact even when he was having a ton of success. The problem is he was giving up, 3 or 4 or 5 hard hit balls in his entire outing, and all in like 7 innings. Now you've got a lineup that can produce those hard hit balls more and more and more and more and more. And he's giving up 8, 9, 10 in 5 innings, and it's causing some real damage, and it's not going right at guys. And so Seth Lugo is a little bit worrisome there. Hopefully he can find some ways to do some things against some of these better lineups, because we need him for this push. We need him in the playoffs as well. And so, a little bit more of the same is really what I saw this week.
Interestingly, today, yes, the Phillies did have a lot of hard hit balls against him, but the thing that really killed him, he gave up 5 infield hits. Right, so the Phillies just happened to get 5 infield hits on some weakly hit balls. There were some well-placed balls where they were able to get on base, and then somebody comes up and hits a ball really, really hard that bouncer, that one hops the wall or something like that. And so, it's not just the hard hit balls are a problem. It's if guys are getting lucky in some way, you compound that really a ton when you're giving up some hard hit balls.
And the other thing that we saw, especially in Game 2 of that Phillies series, was the mistakes. The margin for this team is so thin that the mistakes will lose them a game every single time. And I'm not putting it all on Michael Massey, but there were just times when you're like, cost him right there. Blanco kicked one around in the outfield today.
Renfroe kicked one in the outfield yesterday.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So this team is not good enough to do those types of things and recover in a series.
No, because they don't have the offensive firepower of a Phillies. They don't have the capacity to go out there and just start bombing,
especially
and
since
series. It's not a thing.
And they don't have a bullpen. If you're down, think about the pitcher the Royals the pitchers the Royals are going to if they're down by 2 or 3 in the 6th or 7th. You're going to Will Smith. You're not coming
It's about
back.
to be 11-3.
Exactly. You're not coming back from that. They're putting in Chris Stratton, who can't strike out anybody. It's just getting drilled. I mean, you hope for a little bit better out of Zerpa, but he's been getting killed too. Like, you can't, and this is why every day when I tweet out the lineup, like the number one thing I say is Royals got to get some runs early. If they don't have runs early, they're not coming back in these games. Their bullpen just isn't built for that.
Yeah, it isn't. And can I read you something, Mike, from earlier today? Did you look at the Royals Weekly Twitter feed at all today?
No, I'm off of Twitter quite a bit because I'm part of the Threvolution.
Good, because it's a desolate wasteland over there. Just garbage all the time. But I do want to read something to you. I think you'll be proud of me for this level of restraint that I showed. So today, when Will Smith was getting shelled like a goddamn corn husk, I had some thoughts on the notion, and I know you know that I have been particularly perturbed by a bunch of people coming at me with Will Smith's great takes there for about a couple months, and I was like, he's not great. He's just facing Jags, and I felt vindicated a little bit today and every day that he goes out and sucks. And so I put out a tweet today. I didn't want to just go find all the people who came at me with those garbage takes and sort of throw it back in their face. Cause you tell me, listeners, Mike routinely advises me not to go flame war on social media because it'll turn people off and, it's mean of me and that sort of thing.
It lacks tact. Mark lacks tact at times.
Mike says. And so what I did instead of doing that, and there was one person I was particularly thinking of, and he's actually really well known. He hosts a very popular KU podcast, and he wanted to come and get back and forth with me like he knows something about baseball. But so I didn't do it. I didn't go after all those people. Instead, I put out this poll. And on the Twitter poll, it says, should I be super petty? And super was actually capitalized. That's how petty this would have been. Should I be super petty? Go find all the people who tried to argue with me about Will Smith and ask them how they're feeling about Smith now. And right now, in the poll. The answers are yes, no, or this poll already does it. The yeses are currently winning, but just barely. And so we'll see how that turns out. We'll just see how that turns out. But just doing the poll made me feel a little bit better. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about today's game. It was a rubber match, and it sort of put all the Royals' flaws on display. So we saw a couple of those defensive mistakes. We saw Blanco kick one around and cost the Royals at least a run there. We saw Zerpa got out of his inning, which was good, but we saw Stratton and Smith blow up, right? Like, and completely take him out. We saw the Royals lineup not do that much against a guy who
we saw Garrett Hampson pitch a clean inning.
Woohoo! Look out! I found our new bullpen addition. No, we saw the lineup just not really produce when it was given opportunities. I think they at one
3 home runs. Nobody was on base.
Right. That's at one point they were 0 for 7 with guys in scoring position. I can't remember if that stuck the whole time, but it was just one of those games that reminded you of how this team is flawed exactly. And so, we'll see. Hopefully it gets better against other good teams. The Phillies aren't just a good team. They're one of the best teams. And so, we'll see as we move forward, but it wasn't great. Mike, there were some strong performers, although they weren't super easy to find. Who'd you go with for the strong performer this week?
I went with MJ Melendez because I can't remember if it was Wednesday's episode for the Substack or on Monday. But we talked about how I think MJ Melendez is going to be a huge X factor for this this playoff push. He can provide certain things for the lineup that not a lot of other guys can. He can provide the power. He can provide quite a bit of base running ability. He's pretty fast for a left fielder, just the offensive ability when he's going well. So he's 5 for 16 with 1 double, 2 home runs, 2 RBI, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. So if MJ Melendez can get hot in this run, it could turn this offense into something that might be able to cover over some of these bullpen issues.
Yeah, I'm going with somebody who we're going to talk a little bit more about in the spotlight segment, but Michael Lorenzen was really great this week on the pitching side. I looked for hitters to put in here, and I was like not super impressed with anybody. And so I thought about Hunter Renfroe, but he didn't have that many at-bats because he didn't play today, and so on and so forth. And so I went with Michael Lorenzen because he was very impressive in his one outing. 7 innings pitched, 0 runs, 4 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. He got the win in that game, and he has just been really impressive ever since coming to the Royals, and that change in pitch mix has really done wonders for him. He's not striking out that many guys, but that's not really his game. And so it's nice to see that they made a move, and he has been really, really important to this starting rotation, filling in for Marsh, who was frankly not playing all that well when he was demoted. And so, having Lorenzen as like a steadying force that 5th time through the rotation has really meant a lot, especially the last couple of weeks. Mike, who was your weak performer for this week?
Had to go with Chris Stratton. Could have gone with several different bullpen guys, but had to go with Chris Stratton.
Would have gone with Will Smith, but we went with him last week.
Exactly what I was thinking. I was like, do we punish Will Smith again? Because at this point we know what these guys are. But Chris Stratton, 1 1/3 innings pitched, 6 hits in that 1 1/3, 5 earned runs, a home run given up, 1 walk, and 0 strikeouts because he doesn't strike anybody out anymore. The Chris Stratton experiment is over in my mind. Okay.
Yeah, here's the thing. We praised JJ Piccolo quite a bit for the moves that he's made that have gotten you. There's nothing you can only say on balance that he has done a wonderful job to get the Royals back to where they are. That is just almost unequivocally true. It would be weird for someone to argue against that point. However, the bullpen signings he did in the offseason have not turned out well, right? Will Smith, garbage. Chris Stratton, garbage. Who else did he bring in?
John Schreiber.
This wasn't a signing. It was a trade.
Inconsistent.
Yeah, that was a trade, but so was the Nick Anderson trade. He's not even on the team anymore. And so, it was not the bullpen upgrade was a valiant effort, but it was not. It did not work out quite as well as he'd hoped, I think. My weak performer for this week is a guy that I'm a big fan of, but he has not played well this week. Well, it's more like he's a guy who counts on batted ball success, and that's always going to cause streakiness. And so Kyle Isbell is my weak performer for the week. He went 2 for 13, which gave with 1 double, 3 strikeouts, and no walks. You see that the strikeout number is not high. Neither is the walk number, obviously. And that's just because that's Isbell's game. He's going to put a lot of balls in play. And if they're not finding grass, then he's in trouble, right? And so he's bound to have weeks like this. He doesn't get 21, 28, 25 plate appearances in a week because they rotationally use him. They put him in specific spots. But tough week for him. Hopefully he bounces back next week and has more success with those balls in play. Mike, in a week that was fairly even here, and we're sort of getting down the stretch, we're 33 games left. What was your theme for the week?
Well, I'll tell you what's not even or mediocre or meh. The two films that you and I have for the themes this week.
I know.
Talk about two of the greatest films in movie history. Mine is Shawshank Redemption, one I've gone with before, but not this particular quote. Here's my theme. When Andy writes the letter back to Red, when he's in Sehuatanejo, okay, and he says, remember, Red, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. Keep that hope, Royals fans. Keep the hope for winning the division, but also for making the playoffs and having some success in the playoffs. It's still there. We're still in a great position. Even if we don't do well this coming up week, we're probably still going to be in a decent position to make a playoff push. So keep hope. Hope is a good thing.
Keep hope alive. Here we go. Yeah, what's funny is you go back to the beginning of the season and there are people who are like, I would kill for us to just be 500. We're way over 500. We're competing for the playoffs. And now people are like, it's not enough. I'm all sad all the time. It's like, enjoy it. We're in a good place, guys. Yeah, mine is from a classic Marlon Brando film called On the Waterfront, which I've actually never seen, but everybody knows this line because it's a very famous line. The line is actually longer than this, but I decided to go with just this part. He says, I could have had class. I could have been a contender. That's the line, right?
Classic Brando.
Classic Brando. Why? Because the Royals are contenders and they have class to some degree, right? And so he's sort of bemoaning what could have been. I think the Royals, if fans, once they gain a little perspective on what's taking place right now, won't bemoan the fact that the Royals were in it. They'll love the fact that the Royals were in it. And we'll continue to see whether or not they could have class and could be contenders. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Ocher of West USA Realty. Phoenix has all of our favorite things: year-round golf, year-round baseball, and Eric Ocher of West USA Realty. Whether you want to buy your dream retirement home or just stay a while and catch spring training, Eric can help you find the perfect spot fast. We've known him for 30 years and trust him far more than we even know each other.
Are you still sour about the time that I deleted all those seasons of True Blood from your DVR?
Now I'll never know what happened to Anna Paquin.
Big Selleck guy, yeah.
No, True Blood, not
Blue
Blue
Bloods.
I'm
thinking Blue Bloods, yeah.
Here's
True
the thing
Bloods.
about Mike. He's
HBO?
150 years old.
Is that HBO or Showtime?
HBO. Maybe,
HBO.
I don't know.
I don't do vampire.
Eric does long-term rentals for the Snowbird crowd and home sales and purchases for those who want to stay a while longer. Are you a baseball player or parent who needs a place in the Phoenix area? Eric will find you the perfect spot fast. You want to spend your days shanking golf balls into the great beyond? Eric knows the golf scene like Mike knows how to sell a simpleton on crypto. Mike's at the top of the pyramid, though, so don't worry about it. Find Eric online at ericoxer.com if you can figure out how to spell his name, ERICKAUXIER.com, or just shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. Even if you're just curious about what he can do for you, he's 100% no pressure, one of the best people we know.
And he makes Boy Scouts look like death row inmates.
It's been nearly a month since the trade deadline, which gives us some data on which to evaluate the trades J.J. Piccolo made to strengthen the team for the playoff push. Push. The word is push. If you don't recall, the Royals made trades for relief pitcher Hunter Harvey and Lucas Ursig, starting pitcher Michael Lorenzen, and third baseman Paul DeYoung. Mike, let's start big picture here. After a month, what is your overall impression of this trade haul?
It's still the same for me. It's a positive for me for a couple of reasons. I think they acquired guys to address their biggest needs. They were creative in how they did that. And they didn't give up anybody that I think is going to make large impacts at the major league level, at least that are guaranteed to make large impacts at the major league level. I think there's still big question marks on Caden Wallace. I think there's still big question marks on Mason Barnett. People talk about the pick for Hunter Harvey. Those are always a roll of the dice. I'm trying to think who are the other big guys that they gave up.
There weren't any.
There was one other guy that was somewhat well thought of. I'm blanking on it, but it's that
the fact that you're blanking on it probably says something. Right?
I can't remember who it was, and I know I wrote a prospect profile on him. I know I did. But anyway, there's that's why I'm still very much high on it. Now, it hasn't all worked out, but I think for the most part, we've gotten, outside of Hunter Harvey, we've gotten at least what we thought we could expect from those guys, and a couple of them a whole lot more.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm very positive on what was done, but I think they even got a couple of surprises. I think Lorenzen and DeYoung have performed better than a lot of people imagined they would. The Ursig was the headliner, and yet it's Lorenzen and DeYoung who have been doing some really important things. And I think that, if we look back, if people understood sort of the landscape of trade value, they would understand that, like, if 75% of your trades hit, you're in really good shape.
You're killing.
You're killing it. What's funny is Jeff Passan actually put out a tweet the other day where he was like, the Royals have won the trade deadline. They are the people who emerge as the victors after Paul DeYoung, Lucas Ursig, and Michael Lorenzen have dominated since moving there. And it's like, okay, well, if Jeff Passan says it, I'll believe him. You know what I'm saying? Mike, who among this bunch, these four trade acquisitions, do you think has been the greatest addition?
I have to say Lucas Ursig, because he's been an unstoppable force. The only problem is we can't always get it to him. We can't get to places all the time where he can be utilized because we're down by a lot, or, in a situation where he's not really needed. So, but Lucas Ursig has pitched 11 1/3 innings and has yet to give up an earned run. He has 15 strikeouts, and that's 11 1/3 innings. And the concerns that we had with him were about command. His command has been fantastic. He's been locating the fastball like he's, like he was born to do it. 99 on the inside corner to lefties. I mean, just really, really good stuff from Ursig. And I throw in the slider a little bit more, maybe, and that's really good. It's a fantastic pitch. And the thought that we have 5 more years of that is just so fantastic. Lucas Ursig, cement him. He is the guy in the back end of this bullpen.
Yeah, and the 5 years is really what makes that super duper happy to think about. I mean, yeah, the rest of this bullpen is real volatile and doesn't always look any good and all that sort of thing. But the fact that that they're going to have him for the next 5 years, and yeah, relievers are volatile, so who knows? Maybe next year he's terrible. I don't know. But the arm talent's there, the stuff is there. You really hope that he can be one of those relievers who defies some of that and is just successful for a long stretch here. I'm going with Michael Lorenzen because by value numbers, I think he's probably DeYoung is probably the highest because DeYoung gets to play a little more often. And so it'd be close probably, but Lorenzen has been incredible. DeYoung, I looked up earlier today, his weighted runs created plus with the Royals is over 150. And so, he's been really good.
They're putting him in really good spots.
Lorenzen has been incredible as well. 22 2/3 innings pitched, a 1.99 ERA, a 1.15 WHIP, and that's coming from a guy who's fulfilling the 5th starter spot. Not a ton of expectations for 5th starters most of the time, and yet he's given them 4 starts where they've had a chance to win every single game, and that means so much when you're down the stretch and every single game feels like it matters a ton, right? And so it's like, they don't have a game to waste, and he's out there giving them a chance to win every single time out. I think nobody expected that from Lorenzen. I think people were wondering, will he be a starter or a bullpen guy or whatever? And yet he comes in and has just really been solid for them. That is creating tremendous value in the starting rotation. Mike, clearly Harvey has been a disappointment because, one, he wasn't pitching very well when he got here, and then he went on the IL. Do you think it was a mistake to trade for Harvey or just something that hasn't worked out?
I think it's just something that hasn't worked out so far. And I say yet because we have him for next year as well. And you never know what's going to happen when he comes off of this IL stint for the lower back. He may have something that he can work on. He may be, the rest of the arm. Really, it's going to be about how well can he command that split finger. If he can get the feel back for that pitch, perhaps Hunter Harvey is somebody who really helps you out in September. If that's the case, we're going to be talking about if he comes back and has a feel for that split finger better than what he showed before he went on the IL, we're going to be talking about Hunter Harvey as the savior of this playoff run because he will become the bridge to Lucas Ursig. And he and Bubic will become the bridge to Lucas Ursig. And your bullpen problems, I'm not going to say they're fixed because we still don't have guys behind that. But your bullpen becomes a lot better if Hunter Harvey comes out of that looking good. And if it doesn't happen this year, you have an off season to get a plan going to work with him. And I believe that this pitching development system has the ability to make him better.
Yeah, I'm not really curious to see what they do with this offseason with him, because Ursig, you feel good about for next year. If you can feel good about Harvey, great. And then,
those are two back end guys if they're right.
Two back end guys. And then the work begins of finding the other 6, honestly, because, I don't think they may not want to keep Bubic in the bullpen. They may want him to go back to the rotation. They don't know what they'll have with somebody like Kyle Wright and stuff like that. Stratton, he has another year with the Royals, but they would need to fix him dramatically. And then,
I think you go all in on Marsh to the bullpen this offseason too.
Maybe they go all in on Marsh to the bullpen, but they still won't know what they have with him as a reliever. No. And so, there are a lot of question marks beyond those guys. So any one bullpen, any one reliever you can make fairly solid for you in that bullpen, you got to find a way. And so Harvey's got the talent. He actually has the track record, better track record than Lucas Ursig even. And so longer anyway. And so, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him this offseason. Mike, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to before the trade deadline, would you do anything differently than JJ did?
Probably not, because I don't think the Royals had the capital in their farm system to do anything of note beyond what they did. I thought they got very creative. I thought they gave away guys that either had big question marks or were somewhat of a redundancy, I guess, within the system, had guys blocking them or whatever the point may be. But no, I wouldn't go back and do anything else. Now, if the Royals had a deeper farm system, a more high-end farm system, and could give away some of those pieces to even get more bullpen help, sure, I would have taken more bullpen help, of course. But they didn't have that. And so unless we're dealing in fantasies, then no, I think they did everything that they could, and I think they were creative. And I think that's why people like Jeff Passan are claiming they won the trade deadline, because they got value. They didn't get the best players at the trade deadline, but they got the most value out of just about anybody.
Yeah, I would have done some things different, but mostly addition by subtraction at the trade deadline. So I would have dumped Will Smith in some capacity at the trade deadline. Either trade him, somebody gives you a bucket of balls for him or something, or the day after the trade deadline's over, I DFA him. One or the other, right? And so what's weird is Smith, maybe you could have convinced a team, hey, he hasn't given up an earned run since late May. Please take him off our hands, which is why they were pitching him in, that, and they don't want him to lose games for them. But every low leverage situation they could find against the bottom 3 in the order, they were putting Smith in. He was doing okay, and because he was facing a bunch of Jags. And then it's like, my thought was, you're doing this so you could try and convince somebody to take him off your hands. It didn't happen, so just DFA him after the trade deadline. That's what I would have done. Stratton as well. Anybody who was willing to take him, I would have given him. Maybe you could have gotten some if you'd have eaten half his salary or something like that, because he does have that extra year and he was successful last year. But other than that, they might have been able to go out and look for like one reclamation bullpen guy. And this would have been a long shot. The odds of this guy actually being good for them but I would have liked to have seen it. Like a live arm with plenty of options and terrible numbers right now, and see if they could do something with him to unlock something, because that guy you can stash in AAA, and then they would have had him to bring him up right now, right? And so that's just something, a couple things. That's really quibbling, because I think JJ did as well as anybody could do, but I think a little addition by subtraction might have helped them there.
Yeah, here's a thought there. Maybe you go and get like a guy who's been a not so effective AAA starter for a while that you think might be able to slide into a bullpen role, and you go out and you try and acquire something like that, stash him in the bullpen, or start working on that bullpen role for him in AAA, and then see if maybe you have somebody to bring up. That would have, and I think we may have even mentioned that.
We did mention
prior
that
to the trade deadline. Yeah.
Royals Weekly is brought to you by All In Physical Therapy. You already know that All In Physical Therapy helped our mother redefine beast mode, but you don't know that Mom loved her experience there because of the personal attention she got from Tommy and the staff at All In. They guarantee a personalized, one-on-one experience to suit the needs of patients recovering from total joint surgeries, sports injuries, or any kind of injury or pain.
I'd like to get total joint surgery. And I'm meaning like all my joints replaced at the same time. Knuckles to kneecaps, baby.
All In Physical Therapy is owned and operated by Tommy Freevert with locations in Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and Belton. But most importantly, they're in network for nearly all insurance providers.
I better be in network. I'm getting 360 joints replaced at the same time. I'm going to need your help going to the bathroom, by the way.
I didn't realize there were that many joints in the human body. If you're a high school athlete recovering from injury or someone bouncing back with a brand new hip or knee, check out the best physical therapy in the KC Metro at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com. Or give them a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. The Royals have a tough week this week. It's gonna be a tough one. For one, they play 8 games in 7 days on the road, all of them. That's tough no matter what. But for 2, they play against the Guardians and the Astros, 4 games each. So it's gonna be difficult. Mike, tell us about this Guardians team the Royals are chasing in the Central.
Well, we know them well. 75-55 is their record. They are 3 games up and in first place in the Central. We'll have a doubleheader on Monday. So in game 1, it's going to be Cole Reagans versus Nick Sandlin, 27-year-old righty out of Southern Miss. He's got a 3.88 ERA and a 1.17 whip, so he's having a great year for the Guardians. I kind of classify him as a funky righty because he's a slider first guy. Slow, a bit of a slow slider too. It's not a fast, hard breaking slider. A 4-seamer at 93, the average is 93, a split finger and a sinker. He mixes all of his pitches very well, but his expected numbers on the slider and the fastball are quite a bit higher, and those are the pitches that he throws the most. And so a chance maybe there. Nick Sandlin is good, but I think maybe he's not quite as good as those numbers would indicate. In that second game, it'll be Alec Marsh versus Logan Allen, who we've seen this year. 25-year-old, that says right-handed pitcher, but he's left-handed, isn't he?
I think so.
I think he's left-handed. I think I put right-handed, but I'm pretty sure he's left-handed. Out of Florida International, fastball in the low 90s, a sweeper, change, and cutter. He is having a terrible year. Very hittable guy. Over 500 slugging on the fastball and the sweeper. He still throws those 66% of the time. And I mean, if you are familiar with Baseball Savant, if you look at Logan Allen's Baseball Savant page, it's all blue. Everything. It's just doesn't look very good. He needs to find something to get back to what he was last year, which was a pretty decent year for him. Michael Lorenzen will go in game 3, which will be day 2, versus Gavin Williams, 25-year-old righty out of East Carolina University, a guy they had really high hopes for, who's having a little bit of a struggle this year. 5.13 ERA and a 1.46 whip. He throws a mid to upper 90s fastball at 96 to 97, curveball, cutter, slider, change. But the fastball has been getting hit a lot this year. A 360 weighted on-base average against it, but he still throws it over 50% of the time. And then in that last game, game 4, to be Waka versus Tanner Bibby, 25-year-old righty.
Bibby.
Is it Bibby?
I think that's what I hear him pronounce it. I don't like that either.
I don't like it. I think it's a slap in the face to former Arizona great Mike Bibby. Okay. Tanner Bibby. All right, I'm saying Bibby. 25-year-old right out of Cal State Fullerton with a 3.46 ERA and a 1.10 whip. Mid-90s fastball, slider, changeup, curveball. The fastball is his worst pitch, so hopefully the Royals can jump on the fastball. I think he's probably the best pitcher that we're going to see in this bunch. And I think it's a series. I like the matchups. I looked at the matchup here, and I actually like the matchups pretty well in this first series against Cleveland. Got to get the offense going early.
Yeah, we've liked the matchup against Cleveland all year. I think they're a pretty good matchup with Cleveland generally. The Twins, I don't think they're a good matchup with. But Cleveland, I do think they're a pretty good matchup with. After that, they're heading down to Houston. No days off, just straight down to Houston to play some baseball. The Astros are 69 nice and 60. You'll remember we played the Astros earlier this year. This is not that same Astros team. They are first in the AL West by 4 games at this point. They have improved dramatically since we played them earlier in the year. On offense, they have a 110 weighted runs created plus as a team, which places them at 8th in Major League Baseball. They're having great years from guys like Yordan Alvarez, obviously. Jose Altuve, Yainer Diaz. I think it's Yainer Diaz.
And they just got Kyle Tucker back, too.
And they just got Kyle Tucker back.
Or about to get him. I think he's about to get back. Yeah, he may be there before the
So we'll see if he's back for this. He's having a really good year offensively, but he's been on the 60-day IL, and so he's been down for a while. Maybe he'll have some rust he needs to knock off if he ends up in this.
Well, he may be in the middle of his rehab assignment at that time too. So all I know is he'd already started hitting, and they were getting ready to send him out, and that was this past week. So
all right, so we'll see if he's back for this Astros series. On the pitching side, they're also very good. They have a 3.82 ERA, which places them ninth in Major League Baseball. They're led by Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, and Ronel Blanco. They also have Justin Verlander on the staff, though he's not having a great year by his standards. And so,
he's 70.
Well, he's like 70, which is understandable. Still got an ERA under 4, though.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he's still real good. So hopefully they can, maybe get some good fortune against a really good Astros team. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just About Outside segment, where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Mike, what has been happening to you this last week? My week's been insane. What's happening to you?
My week hasn't been quite as insane, even though we started school for the youngsters this week. So I went back to work, is basically what that meant. But something else really awesome happened to me this week. My mother-in-law came to visit. And so shout out to my mother-in-law, Kelly. She was awesome. Kelly. She watched our son so you and I could go to the concert with me, my wife, you, your partner, our mom could go to the concert together last week. And then we did a bunch of fun stuff with my son. And hopefully she had a great time with that. We enjoyed having her here. That was awesome. But one thing that her and my wife discovered in the midst of doing these fun things with my son is that you can check out a pass to go to Wonderscope, which is this place for kids to play and have fun and learn in Kansas City, for free from the library. So up to 6 people can go for free. And so my Just a Bit Outside this week is the things that you can check out at the library. Would you like to hear some of the things you can check out at the Mid-Continent Public Library?
I absolutely would.
Fishing poles.
Nice.
Did you know that? You want to go fishing, but you don't want to invest in all the stuff? Just check out a fishing rod from the library. Cake pans.
Lovely.
Okay. Yeah. Passes to places like Wonderscope or the zoo or other places. Movies. Okay. The most underutilized resources we have are the public libraries. There's tons and tons of awesome stuff. So what would have cost my mother-in-law,
don't forget books too, right?
Also books, and books are cool too.
Audio books as well, if you want to do
everybody knows about those things, though. I'm talking about the deep cuts here. Okay.
All right.
Go get yourself a fishing pole and a cake pan, and we'll talk about it. All right. So that's the greatest thing. Like, they saved, I don't even know how much, probably $40, somewhere on there. Maybe less than that. I don't know how much Wonderscope is, but the amount of money you can save, go to your public library, check in those places before you go somewhere else and pay money to go do those things, because it's a lot of stuff's free, guys. There's a lot of free stuff out there that you can take advantage of, and libraries are awesome. So get in there, support your library, and utilize all the awesome things that they have.
I am constantly amazed at how on top of it librarians are with understanding stuff that people want and just providing it. Like, they always do new
you can check out whole computers too, like whole laptops.
They always have new and interesting things that you can do there. They always have new and interesting services. They always have new and interesting products. It's like the modern day library is like full of people who are extremely resourceful and extremely on top of what the public could use or need or want, and so it's a really, really great place. I love it very much. So yeah, that's a really good Just About Outside for this week. I just talked about the notion of addition by subtraction for the Royals. I'm talking about it again for my Just a Bit Outside this week, because I had dinner with a friend of mine on Friday, and this person has an interesting example of cutting something out of your life that is toxic and making your life so much better. So I met this friend at work, and we didn't work in the same department, but she had an office near mine, and she was not having a good experience there because of some certain things as a result of that. And it became a very, very toxic place for her to be. And so she just quit her job, like without having another job to fall back on. She just quit, right? Since then, she has found other employment and things like that. But just getting out of that environment has done wonders for her mentally, physically, all these sorts of things. And as a result, I talked to her on Friday. She's like super happy. She's like totally relieved and all these sorts of things about being in a different situation. And it got me thinking about how like much cutting certain toxic things out of my life, environments, people, that sort of thing, has meant to me as well. And so I'm just thinking about like, I've seen people who sort of trudge on because they're in these sort of situations and they don't consider that they could ever really get out of them. And I think it might be interesting to just consider like, is there something in your life that is like draining you and not in any way adding to your own happiness or your own well-being? Can you cut it out? Like, I know sometimes financially we need jobs and all these sorts of things, but always consider whether or not that place, that person, that environment, that whatever, that practice could be cut out of your life. And as a result, you could end up being so much happier. And I've heard tons of stories of this related to things like drinking alcohol or things like that, where people are like, I thought I would, and I cut it out and it was the happiest I've ever been, that sort of thing. And it's like, very cool. Like, find the things in your life that might be better off out of there, and you might be better off without them, and you'll get a little addition by subtraction. It could be really good, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense.
I don't have any personal examples of that, but
Mike's never been a quitter, if you know what I'm saying.
That's right.
Anyway, that's all we have for you this week. Thank you so much for joining us here at Royals Weekly, presented by Bet Online. We'll be back with you again next week, hopefully after an 8-0 week in which the Royals take the lead in the AL Central.
That would be so awesome.
I don't think that's asking for too much. So, yeah, make it so, Matt Quatrero. Until then, be good to each other.
And go Royals.